So, welcome everyone. We have the second week's prayer today with us, and it's March 1, 1914. And I'm sure all of you have heard the talk by Dr. Alok Pandey and also maybe read the transcript, which is one and the same thing. So, would you like to share any thoughts, any comments, any experiences to share, all of you? You can unmute yourself and share.
Can I go ahead, Monica?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hello everyone. Monica, here in the readings, when this is at one place when Mother says that it's in oneself that there are all the obstacles, difficulties, darkness, and ignorance.
Mm.
So, I personally feel that it is a very big challenge that we face, looking at our own self.
Mm.
We are full of vices but we live in a state of denial.
Yeah.
So I think to begin with, it's very, very difficult, questioning one's own self, behavior, and thoughts and everything. But if one is really convinced completely about the whole idea of transformation and is really sincere to bring about the change, I
Mm.
think it is definitely an adventure. We start enjoying it. And I found this whole idea very, very liberating.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was one place which I would like you to elaborate, maybe, when you go there.
Yeah.
When Mother says, indissolubly united to thy highest manifestation,
Yeah.
that was not very clear to me. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Beautiful. Yeah. Anyone else? Taru or Shilpi or Reggie?
I can go.
Yes, Reggie.
What I really found very beautiful about this prayer was that how, there are so many times that we want things, right? Like, but we don't know how to put them in words or how to kind of give them some structure. So
Hmm.
in this, the prayer was like a, kind of really beautifully put that this is what one can aim for, like in this, very brevity, like with a lot of brevity, a,
Hmm.
a very big thing was said, if you want to aim for something, aim for this. Like if you want to aspire for something,
Hmm.
aspire for this. So that I think was really beautiful
Hmm. Hmm.
for me. And yeah, even with the thing with bhakti, how where the regular traditional bhakti stop,
Yes.
like Alokda had talked about that,
Yeah.
that
Yes.
yeah, I guess that's for me, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Shilpi, would you like to share?
Yeah, yes. I would say that in I am on the same page as Gurpreet and Taru.
Hmm.
I mean, I appreciate those things about the poem prayer as much. And just one more thing that stood out for me was when the mother says, "O Lord, I implore thee, grant that I may be perfectly conscious and master of all that constitutes this personality,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
that I may be delivered from myself,
Yeah.
and alone mayst live and act through these multiple elements."
Yeah.
And it reminded me of that Guru Nanak bhajan, no? Sakal Hans mein Ram Biraje. And
Hmm.
there's one line in it that says, Guru Pratap Nanak sa ke varne, bhitar bole koi dujo nahi.
Yeah.
So that
Beautiful.
part and this part, it's almost like two different languages, but exactly the same thing.
Beautiful.
So
Yeah. Yeah. बिल्कुल. Yeah. सो यूजुअली वी आर ऑलवेज इन अ क्लैश, कोई एक आवाज आ रही है वो कुछ और कह रही है और दूसरी आ रही है वो कुछ और कह रही है, तो अब वो वही बात जो आप बता रहे हो, जो भीतर बोले कोई दूजो नहीं, सो द डुअलिटी हैज मर्ज्ड और डिसॉल्व्ड और सब्लिमेटेड. यस, ब्यूटीफुल. रेजी, वुड यू लाइक टू शेयर?
Yeah, hi Monica. So how I'm doing this is like last time when we heard, we did that session on the previous prayer.
Yeah.
I went ahead and tried to apply that,
Mm.
and I haven't gone through this one properly yet.
Okay.
I will do it this week. So like
Yes,
how I
yes.
did last
Fine.
prayer last.
Okay.
Right. So that is how I'm planning to go about it, because I like the inputs first, then I read it for my own understanding, and then I apply it.
Perfectly.
And
Good. Yeah.
right. And so so based on the last one,
Yeah.
I can talk about that if you
Yes,
want.
why not? Yeah.
Okay. Um, so this was my first tryst, if you call it that, if you can call it that, with prayers and meditation, because I've never really gone through this book, and like I mentioned last time, the one thing that has eluded me so far is uh, anything on the lines of prayers and meditation specifically. It's been mostly on their wisdom on different things, but not this. And it's quite interesting because the whole thing about being connected to the psychic being, always asking it in making every decision, whatever you do, I heighten that bit in whatever I'm doing. And that was interesting because every time I did something, then my consciousness to doing that increased. If I'm taking a shower, if I was eating food, if I was talking to my mom, like I remember just yesterday there was a heightened argument about the printer or something, and I had to keep my calm, and so I had to keep going back to keep my calm because my mom was fighting with me, and this I had to apply this much more yesterday, which I did. And I even tried writing a little bit. So that's a new form of writing. Usually I write based on my understanding of things or psychology a little bit. But this time it was more like I tried a dialogue, which was interesting because that's something I'm looking forward to do more and seeing how that evolves. It's not something I do written meditation. And normally meditation for me is very silent and going inward. I don't generally write at all for it. This is a new thing which I'm trying. And it's interesting because uh, the language changes and then the thoughts around it also change when I'm writing. So that is also something new.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there's one part I'm trying to find, which, one second. Yeah, and there's this constant questioning about if something goes wrong, and somebody in the environment, something in the environment, the family, relationships, etc., you look within yourself and correct it, is something I know, but since I was trying this consciously, it actually helps to heighten the level to which I do it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that is something that has also helped. And there's one aphorism by Sri Aurobindo that was there somewhere in the middle. I'm trying to see where that is. Yeah, the tiger does not attack the yogi. So if somebody is angry within my environment, what should I do? Look within me. So that part.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that part I found that quite profound.
Yes.
And that's something I'm trying to cultivate within, because I think if I can, and I think we spoke about this in conjunction with breath work, I think one of this discussion. So when I'm able to go to that space, no situation is too overwhelming. And so this aphorism was perfect for me, actually. This is something that caught my attention, and I'm trying to actually inculcate that more and more as time goes.
Beautiful.
Right. So yeah, and last Sunday I had a little session with 2-3 people who were also on a Skype call randomly, and I ended up speaking a lot about to connect to your. Well, I didn't use the word psychic being because they won't get it, but like the inner truth. And also about the fact that most people, I've realized, a lot of people don't have that faith that things can go if they let go of something. Things can go in a particular direction that will favor them eventually if they let go and not hold on so tight to it. So it came in conjunction with the last prayer, actually. I felt that they need to cultivate more faith, and I actually said that, like, we should have more faith, divine. And that's actually alien to some people because they think they need to take control over everything.
Yeah. True.
So that also is part of the experience while I was kind of imbibing this, practicing.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay, thank you.
So beautiful, Reggie. Thank you for sharing. So I would like to take up a couple of points from Reggie first, and then maybe go ahead to the prayer. And in the meantime, whenever you feel like saying anything, just unmute or share on the chat window. So one thing is what Reggie just shared from the last prayer. A tiger does not attack the yogi. There is a story about this which I want to share. Once, I think it was the mother along with a lot of people or sadhaks or disciples, I don't remember exactly. They were going through a forest, passing through a forest, and it was mother's time for meditation. And it was around evening time, and then people told her, told the mother not to stop on the way, like in the forest, in the middle of the forest, because maybe it's not the right place to stop. And she said, no, I have to, because it's my, I have to do this at 7 o'clock or whatever. So they just went ahead, the other batch. And mother said that I would follow you up later, I'll catch you up later. And she sat down in the forest, in the middle of the forest, and she closed her eyes, went into her being within. And after a few moments, she realized that there was maybe something outside, and she opened her eyes, and she saw that there was actually a tiger, outside, just like the aphorism goes. And she did not do anything, because the intensity of the calm and peace in the body, which I want to stress upon in a moment, she just closed her eyes back again. That much of a solidity of the calm, intensity of the calm. She closed her eyes back again, and after a few moments, the tiger was gone. So, this peace in the body, the peace in the cells of the being, this is something which Mother and Sri Aurobindo have shown us that this can be done being in a human existence. We don't have to be restless and full of anxiety and panic all the time. And that also decreases our efficiency of going through life situations or challenges. So, consciously calling upon peace in the body, in the being, and solidifying it in the body is something which I personally have benefited from. Also, going through a lot of restlessness, my own self, and I saw for my own self practically that nothing helped but calling on and solidifying that peace inside my being. That was as if the remedy for all cures, even the physical cures, for example, physical diseases, pains, or even migraines. Many a times a little bit of pain is here and there, and you try it out, experiment it out, pulling peace in the body, calling peace in the body, and it works. But first one needs to have faith that yes, it is possible, and then one goes ahead. Second point that I wanted to share was, as Gurpreet ji is joining us for the first time, so I thought what we discussed in the last prayer, I'll just quickly share. So there it was, recommended that, beginning to dialogue with the mother, or beginning to dialogue with the divine presence within, maybe to keep a diary and share all the things that you want to share with the divine. You don't need then a friend, uh, an external friend. You may have friends, that's a different matter, but it's not that you are now dependent on a friend ki mere ko to chain hi nahi mil raha, agar main share na karu. So the divine is a 24/7 friendly presence in us, which the added benefit is that it gives always a right and a larger picture, which maybe many a times a friend cannot give, because friends are also many a time stuck in their own limited domains, and not every time a friend will be able to give you the larger picture. So this we began, or most of us are now using a diary, or maybe just dialoguing verbally with the divine as their own, individual practice. And the writing is very simple, very simple writing. For example, imagine that a person says something to me, and I feel immediately a movement within me, a ripple within me. So what I say, I immediately become conscious of that ripple, and I say to the mother, Mother, look, this is happening again. Simple, no complicated language needed. So what I did was, in becoming conscious of that movement within my being and sharing it with the mother, the intensity was absorbed within me and the mother, so that I did not have to follow that impulse. This is the miracle that happens. So for example, I have a pattern of behavior which repeats itself. And when now in this moment, after beginning this diary or beginning the dialogues with the mother, I see this happening again. So I have this impulse again, this reaction again, which I don't think should happen. It disturbs me. So I say to the mother, Mother, what should I do about this? This is happening again. As simple as that. And it works. It really brings a lot of calmness in the being, calm in the being. And we don't need to follow that blind impulse which we may have been following for years, right? So these two things, yeah, before we begin with the prayer. So so I have highlighted the things that I wanted to share. And let's begin with the first one. So this is, mother is leaving for Pondicherry in some time. I think it's 7th March when she leaves for Pondicherry, if I'm not wrong. And then she writes this prayer, March 1, 1914. It is in oneself that there are all the obstacles. It is oneself that there are all the difficulties. It is in oneself that there is all the darkness and ignorance. And as Gurpreet ji was sharing earlier, one needs to be convinced that this is the way for me. So the ego has to be convinced. Usually what happens is the ego has its own demands and expectations from life, and obviously life does not move according to that. And we keep on blaming the situations, the outer circumstances, the persons in my life, the maybe the parental conditioning I got in my life, all the situations which are external, which are actually not in my control. And that becomes a kind of an excuse not to progress in life. Ego never wants to progress. That is the biggest thing about the ego. Ego wants to just keep its image intact. And as an image is a dead image is always a dead image. And that is why, being in our ego, we can never be contented. Because we all of us as souls, as divine souls, we need to progress in life. No wonder that all of us feel suffocated when we are not progressing in lives, right? So we need to listen to this inner call. When I feel that there is something not right with my life, I think progress is not there. It means I've just been following the ego impulses, the reactions, the patterns, the behaviors, wanting, demanding from external people and situations. And that cannot bring us peace and progress and joy, right? So one has to be convinced that now I have tried enough. 40, 30, 50 years of my life, I have tried enough. That has not been working, focusing on all the things that are external. Now I need to turn within. So this conviction has to be there. And then it's kind of a really a, if I can say, more effortless process, because now there is some part of the being which is ready to follow this path. Thus readiness has to be there. That is where aspiration is springing from, as mother shares, aspiration. So let's go ahead. Alokda is sharing here that the difficulties do not become less if you come to the ashram. Mother used to say to her devotees, or people who would come to stay in the ashram, many people would say ki wahan pe, in the normal world we don't have much to do, or things are very difficult, so let's go to an ashram and have an easy life. So that is not the case, because this ashram is for inner work. This ashram is for progress. And here you will face even more demons than you usually face in our usual life. So mother is saying that if you live closer to the divine presence, your difficulties will increase, because they will be brought upon to the surface now, so that they can be cleansed. Just like, one example, I don't remember where I read this, or maybe, I don't know, I got it in a dream, I can't remember. So if you have to, wash a pant, a trousers, what do? You have to pull the pockets out, you have to invert it out, so that all the dust in the pocket is now out for rinsing or washing. If I just put the trousers in the machine like that, then the whole rinsing or the cleaning away of the dirt will not happen properly. So this inner demons coming out is actually a very auspicious beginning. It is just telling me that now cleansing is going to happen. Now cleaning and washing and churning is going to happen, because only then after that the dirt will be cleansed. If I keep on hiding all the thoughts and feelings from the mother, how will mother ever put light on it? Because again, repeating myself, it's a free surrender. Each moment I need to exercise a free will. Mother, I want to show this shadow to you. Mother, these kind of thoughts come to me. Mother, this feeling has come up again. So this has to be put like on a platter in front of mother, so that the divine light can shine on it, right? So yeah, so this is not people who want a peaceful life, the ashram, or living closer to a person who has intensity or who has a connection with the divine presence. It's not going to happen that way. Ashram is a place for change. So it is not so that we want an easy and comfortable life and then we can live in the ashram. Not like that. Yeah. So we have to, confront ourselves with the inner enemies. And that is the only challenge. I think it's a beautiful challenge, because otherwise life is so monotonous, all the time, thinking about food, eating, drinking, all the other pleasures. But this is the real adventure, because we don't even know what is hiding inside us. We don't even know. And when that comes on to the surface, and with the divine light, you are able to confront it, accept it, embrace it, and put light on it, then something miraculous happens. So that really is an inner adventure. I think one if one gets a taste of it, it is not possible that one cannot, one is not able to follow this path. So here Alokda has shared this example of the British poet called James, and who was named as Arjav by Sri Aurobindo. And people asked him, that what are you doing here in Pondicherry in the ashram? Because we have a certain mental conception. For example, if I am a PhD, I would say all the time, I'll be so sticking to my PhD that I would say that I would just get the job which suits a PhD, right? So if he is a mathematician, it cannot be that in Pondicherry, living in the ashram with mother and Sri Aurobindo, he is just given the task suiting his ego, his mathematician ego. The task he would be given would be the task which brings out more of what needs to be cleansed within himself. And that is what he shared with the fellow who asked him, what are you doing here? So he said that if I tell you, if I'm fighting my ego, inside, would you understand that? Because that is not visible, it is silent work. You may think that nothing is happening on surface, but through each and every life experience in the ashram or anywhere else, I am learning how to surrender the ego. And that never comes on surface, that never can be put on a certificate. You can never put that on a certificate or a CV, that I am battling my ego. That doesn't go, it is not seen, it is intangible. And as Alukda has shared here a beautiful line from Bulle Shah, kya hai, Bulle Shah Asmani, kya, do you remember the full one? I think I have written it down somewhere. Let me see. I don't know if I find it. I think it was something related to how you keep on, killing all the things outside and trapping them, or trying to cage them, or fight with them. But अगर अपने अंदर के enemies से if you don't fight, then it's actually, you didn't do anything. So I think it was something like that. I can't remember the exact. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, yes, beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Shilpi. So Shilpi is asking a quick question. Who is battling the ego? I get confused here. One part of ego battling the other, or psychic being battling all other three. So yes, it can be confusing, Shilpi. You are right. It's just the language that we use sometimes. It's so confusing. I'll put it in simple words. It's, imagine that we have two floors within our being. It's very simple that way, if you see it that way. Imagine that on the first floor there is always a chaos, there is always a confusion, there is always some struggle going on the first floor. And if I remain on the first floor, which is the floor of the ego, the desires, the expectations, the demands, then I can never find solace and peace. So that is the floor of the ego. Now I just have to elevate my consciousness, in the sense I can either remain focused on the first floor, or I can get in touch with the psychic being, which is the soul within, or the mother's presence, and that is full of light. Okay, so when I change the floor, when I go to the fifth floor, for example, which is the floor of the mother within my being, then from there I get a different perspective to the whole situation. Then although on the first floor chaos may be there, a little bit of expectation demands may be there, but I would not, bother with them much. They would not have that much of hold on me. So as long as my human existence is there, some or the other part of ego or desires or attachments will be there on the first floor, if I can say. I don't have to focus much there. Let it be. Let it be on the corner. What I have to do is I have to live more and more in the divine consciousness, which is the fifth floor or the floor of the psychic being, which also I have the access to or the key to. It's not that I only have the access to ego's floor and I don't have the access to divine consciousness within. See, what is ego? Ego is when I have a thought within me that this part of me is full of darkness and there is no light there. The thought itself is a separation. And the separation separates the darkness, and as if light is somewhere else. But if I go to the divine consciousness, if I connect and live more on the floor of the psychic being, I am able to fully shed light on all the shadows of the ego's existence that may be there on the first floor. And then I am not fearful of the ego. I am not fearful of my tendencies or patterns, as if some other light is now being shed on the first floor. So yes. So when I say don't leave the temple, it is regarding don't leave the touch with the divine consciousness. Otherwise, we get too much trapped in the ego zone, the first floor. Remaining in the ego zone, there is no solution to be found. We will never be able to find a solution for our expectations, demands, all the things related to the external world. My thoughts, my feelings are right, my thoughts are right. There will always be a clash there. The clash can only get sorted when we move our attention, conscious attention, and unite as mother is uniting herself with the divinity within. Ego can be there, just let it lie there like a towel on the bed. Let it be there. We don't have to bother much, for example. And there comes the beautiful thing of letting go of our own likings and preferences. For example, I may have a certain liking, I may have a certain preference in life, right? So what is equanimity? Equanimity is, I know that I like this, but it's okay if I'm not getting it. When I am after this liking, that I am liking this and why am I not getting this, I must get it at any cost, then I am following the trap of the ego. And when I don't give it much attention, I say, oh, it's okay, I can live without that. It's not that important. I can live without that desire being unfulfilled. I can live without that expectation unfulfilled. No? So all these unfulfillments can be lived with. And that is the thing, living with unfulfilled demands and expectations, letting the ego be. But where are you established? You are there lighting up the inner temple. You are busy, occupied with that. You don't have any time to listen to much demands or things of the ego. So if one gets a thing of a desire, okay. If one does not get a thing of a desire, that's okay too. Yeah.
Excuse me, Monica.
Yes.
Just one question. You said do not leave touch with divine consciousness, right?
Yes.
What do you exactly mean? What I understand is, what confuses me is, like, is it through self-observation, self-awareness,
Yeah.
which I am trying to practice, like in the sense where you go to a place, a plane where you know what exactly is going on within myself, you start questioning yourself, right?
Yeah.
Or is it, do you mean what we do, like, people do, getting in touch with divine, puja,
Acha.
meditations, rituals? What do you actually mean by
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, you're right. It's conscious awareness of each and every movement of my being. So what is the focus now, Gurpreet ji? Whenever something external is happening, for example, a person said something. Usually what happens is I am totally unaware of what is happening within my being. कितने ripples हो गए एकदम से इतना ऊपर से नीचे उछाल के रख दिया. I totally have no idea about that. But when I am becoming now conscious of my own movements, then external person or the situation becomes just a trigger, nothing else. Whether it was my husband who said that, whether it was my partner, it was my kid, does not matter at all. What happened in my being owing to that trigger? That is my sole area of concern. And offering it to the mother. Whenever we feel a burden in the being, somebody said something and I immediately sense an unease in the being. Immediately, not for a moment, holding on to that unease. Immediately offering it to the mother. And also, the other thing that my voice is echoing. Why is it so? Just a second. Ataru, I'm muting you because I think maybe the echo was there. So the other thing is that we consciously have to get in touch with the divine presence within. Uske bina kaam nahi chalega. So the more and more I am becoming conscious of my movements, that is a process, that is a part of a process. I have to get deeper in touch with the soul within, which is in the level of the heart center at the back of the heart. Gurpreet ji, I'll share it with you, the points that I shared with rest of the people here.
Yeah.
The 11 points which mother has shared, how to get in touch with the soul. That is the true light within us. So walking on this path, becoming conscious, as you rightly said, is a part and a parcel. We cannot get in touch with our soul without becoming conscious of our movements of the being. Right? Yeah.
Right.
So Taru, did you want to say anything? Reggie, you were also typing.
No, I just got disconnected and when I came back and I think it was unmute.
Acha, okay. Reggie, were you typing something?
No, I just wanted to say I could hear you clearly. I think the echo came because I think somebody joined back or something happened.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah. So let's go ahead. Yeah, so here we come again, so Shilpi, your question has brought right, to the next paragraph. Exactly the same thing is happening in the next paragraph. Mother is saying ego and the supramental state cannot exist together. It is not possible for me to be on the first floor and the fifth floor together. Imagine one your leg on the first floor in your apartments and one on the fifth. How uncomfortable it will be. It is physically uncomfortable, just like that it is also subtly uncomfortable. One cannot live with that unease that I know what is to be done, I know about the right karma to be done, the right action to be done, but I'm not able to take that owing to the ego. It is not possible to exist in that state. Full of struggle, that state, right? So mother is saying ego's hour is gone. Ego had a purpose in our lives. Ego was a ladder for us to come to the divine feet. But now, with the coming on of the supermind in 1956, when it was brought down upon earth. Now, don't ask the details because I don't have the details. It just means that the divine presence is right available to us. It just means that it's कोई ताले नहीं पड़े हुए. It's not under hiding. That only किसी साधु को मिलेगा, and the people who are in grihast, people who are in the so-called normal lives with families, they cannot access it. So that kind of a lock is not there on divine consciousness. The lock is open now. So when mother says ego and supramental state cannot exist together, this is what we were discussing. That we cannot remain on the first and fifth floor together. When the light of the psychic shines, when the light of the soul shines, it takes care of all the rubbish lying around on the first floor. No need to sort it out one by one. That is the intensity of the, of divine love. Because soul is in direct connection with the divine essence. This is the heroism that the divine expects of us. Kabir's Surma, Kabir's warrior who cuts his head off because the ego's hour is gone. If we want to be the divine warriors, if we want to be truly heroic, we have to learn to annihilate the ego, ourselves, by the touch of divine love, which is the touch of the mother, which is the touch of the soul or the psychic within us. Ego cannot get sorted by struggling on the ego on the first floor. Ego can only get transformed by divine love, which is getting in touch with the highest possibility that is available to us. You remember the story of, the prince and the princess. I think the prince became a frog, and then the princess comes and touches him or her. I don't remember who was the prince and who was the princess. So it's like that, when we touch with love, anything, it may be any relationship we may be going through in life. It may be our work, our job that we do. It may be, some part of our own being that we want to change. When we touch it with love, with conscious attention, it transforms. Because a conscious attention would not have any dualistic agenda, which ego usually has. Ego always has dualistic agenda, wanting to say something but doing something else. That is not there. Love wants the benefit for all of us. Love wants the highest for all of us. तो उसमें एक बहुत selflessness है. Love has a deep quality of selflessness associated with it. And that is why the change magic happens. Because, you do a prayer and then you forget about it. There is a disinterestedness in that prayer. Right? If we are keeping on attached with our prayer, pray bhi kar diya and we are just attached to the prayer, then we bring in the energy and vibration of worries and anxiety in the prayer. So the effect of the prayer gets diluted. So if we do a prayer and then we forget about it because the divine knows the best, done. You don't have to interfere again. So yeah, so this is the power of, transformative power of divine love, and psychic being is full of love, and that is the reason one needs to get in touch with the soul or the psychic being. Yeah. So now here Alokda is sharing, how younger generation keeps on talking to parents in a way which they do not really appreciate. Parents, they said, give us respect, but the respect is not given by the children. Why? And Alokda says that this is not Kalyug, this is actually Satyug, because the child is actually being honest. He does not see anything worthy of respect in you. Why should he respect you? So this is for us adults to change and transform in our nature what needs to be changed. and not to take it on our ego ki humne to tumhe, you know, we have raised you as kids and now you are talking to us like that. Not going there. That's again is the domain of the first floor, the ego. We don't have to go there. We have to see, okay, if he's saying something, let me see if there is something I can do about it, you know. Let me see if I can work on it. Because if people are not getting my fragrance, it means that I am not full of fragrance. And it is not possible for people who, no matter how hateful they have been to you in past, it is not possible for people to not get your fragrance if you are oozing out fragrance of love. And there has, again, pointing on it, there will be a disinterestedness, because you will not be wanting ki ye meri khushboo soong le, right? So there's no want there. Yeah. Okay, so this is, yeah, intense pressure of transformation that is there in the divine presence, or also in company of people who are connected with their divine essence. There is an intense pressure of transformation, owing to which all that is ugly comes out. And that has to be only cleansed, nothing else. No, we all have this ugliness. बुरा जो देखन मैं चला, बुरा ना मिलया कोई, जो मन खोजा अपना, मुझसे बुरा ना कोई. So Kabir is saying this for everyone. So we don't have to, you know, put a very beautiful mask in front of the other, because even if the other does not say it, the other knows very well that the same ugliness that hides within me hides in you, and it's okay. That is the very adventure we are at, you know, transforming the ugliness into beauty. Yeah. So let's go further, taking up the next paragraph in the prayer. Even if we were to travel across the whole earth, bury ourselves in some solitary place, break with all our habits, lead the most ascetic life, still some bond of illusion holds back the consciousness far from thy absolute consciousness. If some egoistic attachment deprived us of the integral communion with thy divine love, we should be no nearer to thee. And you know, this reminds me of this little bhajan by Kabir, where it says, you know, Thari kaya nagar ka kaun dhani, marag mein loote panch jani. So the five senses are there, always ready to trap you, you know, to bring you back in the trap of ego. And there, you know, even if I am an ascetic, doing my all the rituals and whatever I need to follow for a spiritual life, what happens in the asceticism, you know, I get stuck to my own asceticism. Again something sticks. We are so bloody sticky in nature that something sticks even when nobody is around me, in Himalayas or, you know, wherever I am doing my sadhana. So there I become attached. Okay, no, this is the ritual I have to follow, otherwise I cannot reach the divine. So I get stuck there. These are the levels, you know, there are several traps. And that is why this beauty of adventure, because one has to be constantly on guard. Anything can stick anytime to my ego. Very sticky in nature. And this reminds me of a very beautiful example that Alokda once shared. You know, somebody, some Nag Baba or somebody, you know, came, some sadhu came to Aurobindo Ashram, Delhi, and his way was very different. So he had 2 or 3 disciples with him, and he would not touch the floor with his feet. So they would put a patta below his feet, and only then he would step. So then there was a comment passed on, you know, by the then founder of the ashram, or the caretaker of the ashram. He said, you know, I see that you are very detached from the world, but you are so attached to your own idea of spirituality. You know, that this is how it has to be. So even there, one can get stuck. So mother is saying, even when I am burying myself, saying I am not going to get attached to anything in the world, I am getting attached to my own idea of spirituality, of divinity. The biggest trap. बन में लुट गया मुनिजन नंगा, डस गई ममता उल्टा टंगा. You know, this was the line I wanted to share with you. नंगे लटके हो, कोई कपड़ों से कोई अटैचमेंट नहीं है, you know, there is no attachment with clothes or any jewelry or anything of the usual luxuries of the normal human life. But there you get attached to the that kind of a life कि मुझे तो, you know, I have to remain now an ascetic for forever in my life. Yes, and then Alokda shares how this epidemic, this pandemic, COVID is teaching us to find inner Godhead, because we cannot go outside, we cannot do all those things that we used to do earlier, right? And for example, if I was, you know, very used to meeting my friends, or, you know, going out for a beer or whatever, you know, all these things that we keep on doing, or even going to a temple, which was a ritual for me, you know, कि मुझे टेम्पल तो जाना ही जाना है, गुरुद्वारे तो जाना ही जाना है, you know, that all had to be put off, that all had to be stopped. So here it was an intense pressure from the divinity to find the divinity within, rather than finding crutches, or, you know, being handicapped for not being able to go to the temple and finding it outside. So this is how the divine uses everything which is so called ugly in nature to towards a progress. What is the progress? That we are coming more closer to ourselves. So although the things are not very good in shape, so called outside, but even that has to be used for inner progress. So we are spending more time with ourselves. I am spending more times with my own shadows, which I never had the time in the daily rut of life to sit with. And I'm realizing that it's okay, you know, I can be calm even in the presence of the shadows. I don't have to run and, you know, helter skelter everywhere. So we have more opportunity of calling peace in the being, working from that stillness, which is the birthright for all of us. Yeah. Yes, and here Sri Aurobindo says, you know, in Savitri, that man loves his own ignorance. He fathers his pain as if he takes care of his pain. Ki dard na jaye. Even Bollywood, you know, it's full of songs which are full of pain, and we celebrate those songs. You know, they are mostly on the emotional level, that, you know, you did not find a girlfriend, so you are in pain. All those ordinary emotions, rather than, you know, finding a way out and using the intensity of the pain to go deeper within the being. So we love our pain, you know. If we don't have the pain of the ego, we think, you know, what a life, what a dry life. But for a lover of spirituality, for a lover of the divine, only he knows that we can exist without pain when the ego is surrendered to the divine. There is no need for pain as such. But pain has its own purpose also, which we can, you know, talk about later. Yeah. So let's go further. We should be no nearer to thee, whatever might be the outer circumstance. So even if the outer circumstance is favoring my asceticism, going to the Himalayas, being alone all by myself, then even then, the trap of the ego, being conscious of it, you know, what am I sticking to today? Talking to oneself, you know, what am I sticking to today? आज कौन सी thought को अपना बना लिया? Right, you know, being aware of the burdens that we carry. And in that case, mother says that, you know, Alokda shares there that even when I am very close to the ashram, people in the ashram, Auroville itself, you know, we have heard stories, even living in the Pondicherry ashram, big egos, you know, oh, I have been here for 20, 30 years, you know, I know the best. Big egos. Spiritual ego is the worst kind of ego one can have, which will always, you know, keep you separated from the divine essence. So, you know, grass is always greener on the other side. We think that if I live and establish myself in Pondicherry, everything will be fine, you know, but that is not true. We all know that the sadhana can happen anywhere in the world. Sri Aurobindo did sadhana, the highest form of sadhana, when he was in Alipur jail. Nothing of even the basic hygiene was there, and the best period of his sadhana. So what is meant by a favorable outer circumstance, and what is meant by a non-favorable outer circumstance? When we sit for meditation, many a times in the beginning we think, let's order a new mat, maybe new incense sticks, and after 5 days, we are done by after ordering all that. So even if we don't have even the basic necessities, no one can stop us from sadhana if we really have that inclination, that fire within us to unite with the divine essence. The fire has to be there. And if the fire is not there, then I'll keep on blaming, this situation is not right. Abhi samay theek nahi hai. Maybe after my son does 12th, after my daughter is completing her college, then I will begin the journey. All these are just excuses, nothing else. Because I am now at the moment not ready to give up the ego and to unite with the divine. Because I don't know about the rasa there. अभी पता भी नहीं है कि कितना कितना मतलब जो छोड़ना पड़ेगा वो तो बहुत अच्छी चीज है जो छूट रही है. Because in the beginning when we talk about walking on this path, we feel that we will have to lose so many things in our lives, but we don't realize that whatever we will be losing will be the burden that will be taken off from our shoulders. And what will we be gaining? A lot of joy, a lot of progress, a lot of adventure in life, because this path is uncharted path. For each one of us, the path is uncharted. It's a journey full of adventure. There is no map. All the surprises on the way will come like actually a surprise, because nobody will tell you that there is a surprise going to come here. Reggie's journey is different, Shilpi's journey is different, my journey is different, Taru's, Gurpreet's, everybody is different journey. The same path towards the divine, but full of adventure, uncharted ways. This is the joy of progress which we get after we let go of, too much attention on the ego. So we don't even know what we have to gain. We always keep on thinking what we have to lose, because we have not yet gained that joy within. Yeah. So here there's a beautiful story which Alok Das shares, that, yes, I think we already discussed this, that even if we are truly a sadhak on this path, then no matter if the circumstance is also difficult outside, it becomes a feeder for our inner growth. Yeah. And if the circumstance that does not change, the outer circumstance does not change for some reason, we use it for a purpose of progress or inner growth, and then slowly even the circumstance begins to change. That happens gradually over time. It happens with our relationships. Many a times we are stuck in toxic relationships, and we feel that we have no way ahead. We cannot go out of this relationship. But once we begin to have the right attitude towards our progress, then we see that if the person does not change outside, our relationship now part ways. So at least there is peace in everybody's life. Yeah. So mother is saying, are there ever circumstances more or less favorable? I doubt. It is the idea we form of them which enables us to profit better or worse by the lessons they give us. Now, what does it mean? It means that, for example, I've got an illness. Now, there are two ideas I can operate from. One is the victim identity. One is, why did it happen to me? Why did it, had to happen to me? Why did it not happen to the neighbor, for example, वो भी तो बहुत गलत काम करता है, उसको तो नहीं हुआ, मुझे हो गया. So this is one attitude, idea in the head. The other idea may be, okay, now it has happened. Let's see what it has to show me. Let's see what progress I have to make through this disease, for example. So it is the idea we have of them. What is the idea when I have a disease? Oh my God, my life is going to be miserable. I will not have a good life. And we also spoil the present moment in order to, take care of the future that is not even yet come. So I spoil all the moments that is granted to me in the present, thinking about the future which is not even there. And this is how I can profit either better or worse. So if I take it with an attitude, okay, this has come and let's see what progress I have to make through this, then nothing can stop you. So there is no circumstance more or less favorable. So all the things that we say about even our parents, that I did not get the right upbringing, I did not get the right conditioning in the childhood, all that is nothing but stupidity. Because I chose my parents, I chose that kind of a life because I had to be here today. It was all a matter of a choice, but owing to my forgetfulness, I don't remember that I chose this. Yeah. So here Alokda is sharing, for example, Dattatreya ji, he shares that I have 24 gurus. Somebody asked him, how many gurus you have? Who is your guru? And he says, I have 24 gurus and one of them is Bumblebee, from whom I am learning that how to go to various places and pick up their essence. साधु ऐसा चाहिए जैसे सूप सुभाए, सार सार को गहिलए थोथा दे उड़ाए. Kabir says that I want a sadhak who should only take the essence and leave all that is kachra, which is waste. And if we look at our lives, when we focus more on the garbage, then only we get stuck at the first floor. When we only take the essence, isse mujhe mila kya, what was the progress that I needed to make through this experience, then there is no problem at all. And here I also remembered this, there is a bhajan by Kabir where it says, Baga ka fulda tane tode are lobhi, mane to gundhire bhar mal. So means that what I did was I took up essence from each and every moment of my life. And what you did, you kind of, you plucked those flowers and you wasted it. I made it into a garland. I progressed through all that came into my life. And what you did, lobhi means greedy, the ego. What you did, you only consumed and consumed and consumed. And you were not able to progress through those experiences. अब क्यों भूलियो जाए रे सौदागर. Yeah. So this story I already shared with some of you on the Doha group, Kabir Doha group, where there is this two people living together, an ascetic and a harlot, a prostitute. And all the time this this ascetic is all the time focused on what is she doing, what a stupid life she is living, and it's not a worthy life. And all the time his attention was on the ascetic, on the harlot. And what was the way of the prostitute? She would, whenever she would go to a man, she would always pray that, I, owing to my circumstances, I don't have any other way of living, and may you, the Lord, the divine, may I touch you in this human being in front of me, may you touch me in that person. So all the time the prostitute's attention was on the divine, while the ascetic, so-called, attached to his own spiritual ideas, he was always focusing on what is bad in that prostitute, what kind of a life she is living. And when they die, after some time, uh, Chitragupt comes to them and he says to the prostitute, you go to the heaven. He shows her the door. And to the ascetic he says, you stay here, you have to go to hell. Now the ascetic is startled. He says, why on earth should I go to hell? There must be some mistake. And then Chitragupta reveals to him that it's the inner state of being and not your outer actions that matter in our computers. So all the time, although you were doing your meditation, sadhana, wearing orange clothes, all the time you were focused on finding bad and evil in others, in that prostitute. While that lady, although on the outward appearance, she was busy in something which is considered as not right, all the time she was focused on the divine. And this is why Mother says in those 11 steps towards the soul, never go on the face value. Spiritual things can never be understood on the basis of face value. Never judging people, that he is doing that or who is doing what. Because we never know what is important for whose progress. And if we withdraw our energy from judgments, we will see that we have so much of intensity left for good work, for the divine work, for the right action. We usually feel drained in our days, we feel so exhausted. What is the reason that we feel exhausted? Because if we look at ourselves consciously, we will see that most of the time I'm just focused on what the other person is doing. So all that energy now begins a potential energy within my being if I withdraw my attention from all those places and people. That is now available as a potential energy with you to harness for good work, for divine work. Yes, so this is what it was shared. Inner state is the most important thing. O Lord, I implore thee, I grant that I may be perfectly conscious and master of the aggregate which constitutes this personality. Now, this personality of constituting of the mind, the thoughts, the feelings, the body, all that constitutes my personality. Now, Mother is imploring, Mother is praying that we must strive towards mastering our movements. How would I master my movements when I'm not even aware of my movements? So when our attention from the outer persons and situations goes within my being, and I begin to see, why am I so repelled if that person has said so? Why should I be so startled? What is moving within me? The more focus that I give to my own movements, not focusing on what tone was used to talk to me, and what was the instance in what the other person said something to me, all these kind of rubbish things. Only then I can become aware of my movements and then slowly begin to master them. Fully conscious of the divine presence and mastering all our inner movements by the divine love. And this cannot be done. This cannot be done not being in touch with the soul. It is impossible. One can do maybe achieve a bit of self-mastery. But if we really want to progress on this path of self-mastery, only the soul is the higher guidance to which we have to remain connected. And then a state comes that you cannot be non-meditative in a moment. You will not have to sit for meditation separately. Being non-meditative will be a atyachar on your being. It will be a torture on your being. Even when you are indulging in the so-called normal routines of life, meeting a friend, attending a function, so-called, attending a marriage, take even that into consideration, which we usually say, it's not really of a higher consciousness. Even there, you cannot remain in a non-meditative state. It is impossible. And that is how we become slowly, step by step, we become conscious of the divine presence, and then slowly a full identification with it, which mother did for her own life and showed us the way, so that I may be delivered from myself. Now, what does it mean? We are the biggest obstacle in our own way. My ego is the biggest obstacle in my highest possibility. And if I become conscious of this divine presence, it is not possible that I am not delivered of the ego. As mother stated earlier also, that ego and supramental state cannot exist together. So if you really want to get rid of the ego, now if you feel that I'm convinced I must get rid of the ego, walk this path towards the soul. Only then, imagine a very dark room and immediately, light a lamp. All the darkness is gone. You don't have to fight with the darkness at all. We don't have to fight with the ego. Light needs to be there. The unlit temple within our beings has to be now lit with the divine presence. Just that is necessary. No fighting and struggling with the ego. Not going there. And here Alokda shares a line from Gita. Mind turned towards the light is the cause of this deliverance from all our rubbishness. An ignorant mind is the cause of bondage. A mind which is not turned towards the light. A mind which is always living in a separative idea. So that I may be delivered from my own self, and that thou alone mayest live and act through these multiple elements of mind, of thoughts, of feelings, of my body. So that I don't have any dualistic agendas in mind. कि कहा कुछ और बोलना चाह रहे थे कुछ और. Only what is right in that moment according to my inner truth will be manifested out of my words, out of my thoughts, out of my feelings. That much of an identity with the divine. So that the mind and the body and the vital, the feelings, they become a proper channel for the channeling of the divine light. And this is actually the purpose for which we human beings are born. And that is, it's not a very big surprise then for us to know that we keep on suffering if we are not in our highest possibility. And our suffering reduces and actually vanishes if we are able to achieve this highest possibility. To live in love, by love, for love, indissolubly united to thy highest manifestation. Love is the highest form of transformative power and divine power. All this manifestation that we see today on earth has been possible if we look back to the story of creation. It has been possible only because of the presence of divine love in each and every element. So here the prayer is, the mother says through the prayer to live in love, by love, for love, as if there is no separation now, indissolubly united to thy highest manifestation. No dualistic agendas from the mind left, from the life left. And this can actually happen only when I am convinced that this is the right way to go, as we discussed in the very beginning itself. This being convinced is very important. If I still am not convinced that a life of desires can give me happiness, right? So it's fine, you go ahead and fulfill your desires for a couple of more years. Only then, when the ego willfully comes on down on our knees, that I have done enough, I have ran enough, I have wandered enough, and this is not the life I want for myself, then this eagerness towards this path can happen. And this, as Taru was also commenting on this, stating this, that the traditional bhakti which we consider as very divine, that ends to live in love, by love, for love. Nothing about manifestation. संसार रहे कचरा जैसा का जैसा है, relationships कचरा रहे जैसी हैं, but मैं अपने में divine में immerse हो गया. Now the yoga of Sri Aurobindo and Mother, where does it take us? It takes us even further ahead than bhakti, than traditional bhakti. That even in the manifestation, through my words, through my acts, through my feelings, through my body, I do nothing but thy manifestation. And look at the kind of selflessness it has. And that selflessness is not a kind of a sacrifice that I am making. I am knowing, I am doing it in full knowing that this is the best way to go for me as a human being. And here Alok Das shares that somebody asked Sri Aurobindo, but the mother is everywhere, mother is omnipresent, antaryami. So everything is done by her. So Sri Aurobindo says, yes, it is true that mother is everything, but you have to identify with the mother in the higher nature and not the mother in the lower nature, which is obscure. In the lower nature, mother is there but obscure. We are not aware of mother's presence. And then he shares this from Indian mythology, just this image of Chinnamasta, the image of the divine mother, which is a mother of contradictions. On one hand, she is full of sexual energy, and on the other hand, her image, if you see on the internet, she is standing with her feet on a copulating couple, full of contradictions. So the duality is merging. And those of us who want to reflect on this image are welcome to do so. I am sure there'll be more insights through this image coming to us. Yeah. Ever more of light, more of beauty, more of truth. So ever more means there is always a progressive state of being that one is now plunged into. There is no end to this journey. There is only this beautiful beginning. Ever more of light, ever more of beauty, and ever more of truth. Isn't that beautiful? Because I find it really amazing. It gives me so much of energy when I see that this path is a never ending path. So much of progress. And this limited being, so-called limited body, looks at as if it is limited. It's full of vikars and full of sanskaras which need to be transformed. We don't even realize that abundance of old patterns and tendencies stay within this limited being. And equally enough, abundance of light also hides within this being, the limited being. So Alok Das shares that we should not be self-satisfied, with ourselves, that, oh, I have achieved enough of spiritual growth for me, and now I can relax. Now I can put back myself in inertia and tamas. Whatever may be our achievements of yesterday, they are nothing compared to that which yet we may achieve tomorrow by the grace and the divine help. I think that's really beautiful. That gives me personally a lot of energy, and something which is to be look forward to. One can look forward to another day of progress and not a monotonous life lived in the past and thinking anxieties of the future. So I'll have a sip of water. I've blabbered enough, and maybe you can share if you have anything to share. or comment. Are you guys there?
Yes, thank you, Monica, for explaining it so beautifully and taking us along.
Yeah, I thought you slept, all of you.
You're right, it is a very beautiful prayer.
Yeah. So let's read it. Shilpi, would you like to read the prayer for us? It's there on the screen.
Sure, I can read it. Um, it is in one's own self that all the obstacles lie. It is in one's own self that all the difficulties are found. It is in one's own self that there is all the darkness and ignorance. Were we to travel throughout the earth, were we to go and bury ourselves in some solitude, break with all our habits, lead the most ascetic life, yet, if some bond of illusion held back our consciousness far from thy absolute consciousness, if some egoistic attachment cut us off from the integral communion with thy divine love, we would be no nearer thee despite all outer circumstances. Can any circumstances be considered more or less favorable? I doubt it. It is the idea we have about them which enables us to profit much or little by the lessons they give us. O Lord, I implore thee, grant that I may be perfectly conscious and master of all that constitutes this personality, so that I may be delivered from myself, and thou alone mayst live and act through these multiple elements. To live in love, by love, for love, indissolubly united to thy highest manifestation. Always more light, more beauty, more truth.
Beautiful. Thank you. So we may, some of us may see that a little bit of language is changed, which is only because of the versions of prayers and meditations. In essence, it remains the same. So, yeah. So I think that's it.